The next question again, Deputy Funchion.
Minister, this question, which I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear, is in relation to the school completion programme and just the review and what stage that review is at, or is it complete, and just if we can get some details on that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Deputy, the school completion programme continues to deliver a valuable service for some of our most vulnerable young people. Currently, it receives annual funding of €24.7 million. My department works with the EWS service in Tosa to ensure the necessary resources are available to support the programme and to ensure staffing levels are sufficient to deliver a high-quality service for those young people most at risk of early school leaving. However, a number of long-term complex issues continue to exist in relation to both the governance and the staffing of the programme. And in recognition of the need for a strong policy platform for education welfare services, including the SCP, I requested that my officials establish a task group to support the further development and integration of these services. The work of this group is near completion. As someone with a background in educational welfare, I am eager to ensure that the output will result in a clear blueprint for the development of 3 strands of the EWS, including the SCP. A consultation event on the blueprint was held on June 10th, where those working with vulnerable young people as part of the EWS were able to express their views and help shape the policy blueprint prior to its publication. The closing date for the consultations was extended to mid-September at the request of some stakeholders. So 58 submissions were received then and are now being examined. Next steps are being informed by the content of these submissions, and action will proceed on that basis with the aim of completion by the end of the year. As part of the implementation of the actions contained in the blueprint, I have requested that a new SCP scheme to be scoped out and developed to ensure that its reach, resources and impact are maximized in supporting our young people. My department has also worked closely with colleagues in the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform in relation to the employment status of SCP coordinators and project workers, and I will also continue to examine options in relation to this in the context of the development of this new scheme.
Deputy Funchion.
Thanks, Thanks, Minister. I know that you would be aware that I'm a big advocate of this programme, and I never can say enough good things about it because it totally follows the needs of a child, and it's not based on a lot of other services where you might have to come to the attention of Tosa first to actually get any assistance. This one is, it doesn't matter who your parents are or what is going on in your life, because a lot of kids, they don't necessarily come to other services' attention, and a lot of stuff is means tested based on parents, and people just fall outside of various other schemes. But this is totally child-centred. What does this child need at this particular time, whether it's through the homework clubs, whether it's through the play therapy and counselling services, which I think are probably one of the most valuable things that they provide at the moment, given the increase in levels of anxiety and stress and worry that we see in our young people, particularly in schools. And if you are in a school completion school, you can get access to that immediately, and it's invaluable, particularly for any child going through a crisis. So I just want to find out, were school completion coordinators invited to that event on the 10th of June, and have they been included in the consultation process, because it's absolutely key that they have, and is there going to be new money allocated, because as far as I'm aware they have not had their budget increased in, I think, since 2008.
Thank you. Yes, I know that some were there at that event, because I was there myself, and I know that they have been included in the consultation process as well. Secondly, in relation to your second question, in budget 2019, I secured an additional 500,000 in funding, 500,000 euros in funding for the EWS and the Alternative Educational Assessment and Registration Service, I've maintained that in budget 2020. And what this has allowed is the Education Welfare Service to increase its numbers of education welfare officers, to provide additional administrative support, which has allowed these educational welfare officers to focus on working with young people who are experiencing difficulties with school attendance. And as the Deputy is aware, they work with the school completion people very closely. But in addition, in terms of school completion in my department, we've been working closely with the colleagues in the Department of Education and Skills and local stakeholders, particularly in relation to a program that's called City Connects. It's coming out of Boston College, but taking a look at it specifically initially for the Northeast Inner City. It's an evidence-based intervention intervention. It's committed to an ongoing and scientifically rigorous evaluation of results, and it's strength-based program and works to the principle of progressive universalism. And there is a desire to use this program and to begin to put it in place there as a way of moving forward, supporting the school completion work.
Thanks, Minister. Yeah, it's just, I think it's really important that the school completion coordinators are totally involved in that consultation process. I know there has been some governance issues, and I accept that, but they also did have a proposal, I think, going back a few years ago at this stage, in relation to being brought in under the ETBs for their sort of governance issues. I personally would have had concerns when it was taken out of the Department of Education, because I think that TUSLA have a different approach and a different attitude to school completion than what it actually was designed for. As I said earlier, it's totally focused on the needs of the child, and I think sometimes TUSLA think that this is kind of an extra resource for them and for maybe children that come to their attention, but the idea of this service is that it can prevent people coming to, as far as the attention of TUSLA. And just the new money then that has been allocated, is that specifically for school completion, or is it falling in under in general for education welfare? Because I think it's important that any money that's going to them is specifically ring-fenced for them. Thanks.
Thank you. There's 2 points that I want to make, I think, that you've raised, and that again has to do with the particularly the employment status for school completion coordinators and project workers, and the proposal that they put forward to be brought in under ETBs. I can say absolutely, I have personally, as well as my officials, have been exploring that with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, and that process of examining that is ongoing. But we've had many meetings to try to move that forward, and certainly have taken their voice into account in that regard. And we don't have an outcome yet. But secondly, in relation to additional monies, I will be in the process of identifying with TUSLA the appropriate way to resource and to spend. But yes, school completion would be part of that, as well as the other aspects of the EWS. But I'm very much aware of the fact that they that could use additional resources in order to support their work.